G'day guys, Duckville here. We're going to cast the game from the NA ladder this time. It's going to be one that was submitted to me through Team Liquid actually by our feature Protoss here, our hero Protoss. It is Alej, who you may know on the Team Liquid forums as Alejandrisha. I think that's Alejandrisha. I don't know, man. That's how you spell it, that's how you say it, I don't know. But either way, this guy has submitted quite a lot of content onto Team Liquid. If you're a Protoss, need some help, jump into the strategy forums. Look for this person's posts on the forum. There are some great things there. We've got threads about how to do certain builds. He's started off a lot of threads about certain expanding styles like the 16 Nexus, like the heroic FFE for PvZ. Along with many other posts, strategy related or otherwise, that are just really nice content. So jump on and have a look at those. You can see he's got a stream and a Twitter as well, so go say hi on there. And in fact, he's going to be playing against the Terran here on Shakuris cross positions. Our Terran player is going to be one of the very quietly up and coming players from the American scene. A high GM Terran player. This is Sterling. Sterling is, I believe, in the top 50 on NA or somewhere around that mark. Either way, a quality player to be up there in the GM ranks. And we'll see how he goes here against Alej, and Alej is going to scout the wrong direction, unfortunately, but he's gonna get inside. There's definitely enough time to get that probe inside and have a look at what Sterling is up to. But today, we're going to have a look at a build which is very close to my heart. As you can see here, it is the 16 Nexus. Sometimes you can refer to it as a 15, because some people do it on 15 instead, but take that fast Nexus, go a bit risky on your eco, grab that Nexus and get started. It's a very cool build. A lot of players shy away from this build just because of how risky it is. I like to call it an economic cheese. That's just how I roll, but a lot of people will just say it's a completely risky build and can't really be done. You'll never see Artosis do this one. He's just he's not that kind of dude, but we have seen it in the GSL a couple of times. Huck has given it a go. He actually did it against I believe it was Keen. Unfortunately got incredibly destroyed by Keen when Keen saw that was coming and did a brilliant counter to it. Now I'm going to go into sort of strategy mode a little bit with this. If you're a Protoss and you're trying to attempt this build, always be calm when you're doing it. That's one thing which a lot of Protoss, especially if you've never done it before, or if you're in sort of a lower ranking, you sort of look at this build and actually just keep note that probe there that Alej has out. Just keeping an eye on if there is any sort of scouting SCV coming along. One thing that people really need to keep an eye on is keeping calm when you're doing this build. A lot of Terrans, they'll see this build and they'll do something along the lines of a bunker rush, a 2 racks. You can see things like very early marauders, or just perhaps some early mass marauders from two racks, that sort of thing. If you see that sort of stuff coming and you scout it out, that's one big key thing, is scouting out what's coming. And as we can see here, Alej has perfectly placed that probe to make sure you can keep an eye on what is happening here at the natural. But scouting out those sorts of things is key. Getting this very quick zealot out early is very good as well. But keeping calm is a big thing. If you get bunker rushed early, if you get a bunker placed over here, somehow it gets up and some Marines get inside and you start losing the shields, your health on this Nexus, keep producing probes out of it. There's no reason to stop producing probes just because this is under attack. You can get the probes mining on the natural expansion here, and then if you can evacuate the probes before they come under threat from any possible Marines and that sort of thing, you're actually in a good position, because you'll be way up on the workers. As we can see here, Alej is already up to 28 workers at this stage of the game, 6 ahead of his opponent at the moment, so doing really nicely there. So as I said, keep calm when you're doing this kind of build, and just try and make sure you can evaluate exactly what your opponent is doing in terms of counter pressure, and then you can proceed from there as you would in a normal game. Because a big powerful thing, of course, about this build is that once you get to a certain point, you will have a massive economy, and you'll be able to see there's various sorts of timings that you can do against the Terran. You can do a gateway focused counter attack. You can do things with very fast colossi and do some drops, that sort of thing. You can also go ahead and go straight to double forge, and you can even double forge and go along with other techs as well. So great stuff here by Alej to just push in, trying to get some damage done. Perhaps that Stalker was a little bit too daring there, but trying to get some of the health down on these Marines is good enough. It's good to get some damage done. But the key thing that I really like about the way Alej has played this at the moment is that he's gotten inside, getting in the face of Sterling, and just trying to say, hey buddy, despite the fact that I got that very early Nexus, I'm still able to get in your face. So chronoing out those early units is a big thing about this build. Some people, if you watch Axlav's stream, if anyone wants to see how this is done at a very, very high level, make sure you watch Axlav's stream. He does the early expand against Terran quite a lot, so that's and one thing you'll notice is he does a lot of chronos on the gates, as we can see here from Alej doing that that particular strategy. And now we do have a robotics bait on the way from Alej. He's going to get out that quick Colossus I was talking about. There is a warp prism on the way, so this is going to be the prism drop with a Colossus. So that's quite a fun way to counteract what your Terran opponent is doing. As we can see here, Sterling has gotten a third very quick command center. This is one of the varied responses that Terrans can do against the fast Nexus build. This is probably the, I don't know, it's sort of maybe a little bit more of a daring way to play against the Protoss. Of course, when the Protoss has those two bases up, you can do things such as this fast Colossus, get the Warp Prism speed. Everybody, make sure you get that first. I always love getting that upgrade first before Extended Thermal Lance when you do a Colossus drop. Because it lets you jump around with that Colossus and do all sorts of damage. Now, as I said, the quick third command center is a little bit daring, perhaps, just because the Protoss can come around with these very crazy strats that can come up from time to time, it's just sort of something that the Terrans will have to be very careful of. Now, the thing is, if Alej actually gets up to this side, he'll just be able to absolutely wreak havoc to this base, of course, killing SCVs and mules, and of course forcing the lift of the orbital command. So we'll see if he is going to scout that out. Judging by the way this warp prism is flying, and that's in a very sexy way, he should be able to get across and see that the that third base is there. In fact, does he already see it? No, he doesn't, but he's about to, because the observer that came out pretty quickly is about to spot that, and here comes that warp prism spotting that the base is there, going to drop out that Colossus and just go to town on every single unit here. You cannot even defend against this in any way, and the Colossus now doing a lot of damage, taking out the mules, taking out some of these SCVs, should be able to clean up every single SCV that is there, and this has blocked that this has blocked that third expansion quite easily here for Sterling. So he's going to have to head back to base with that Colossus and sort of look at a different way of playing this out. Looks as if Sterling is actually going to go for a mech-based play. We've got 3 factories with tech labs there, and an additional factory with the reactor. So he's got quite a lot out at the moment. It looks as if the warp prism is going to come across, could get a little bit of drop action going on those tanks, but no, it looks as if the warp prism is just going to evaluate the situation and just sort of head back, just actually spotting that the tanks have now moved. You can do a little bit of fun stuff here, as we've seen on some of the replays I've cast of Next Sickness, where you can do some fun drop tactics. However, you cannot do it against tanks, because tanks have that very fast fire feature where they'll fire instantly, and the Colossus will take some damage. The same goes for the Hellions as well, but looks as if the Colossus did jump out for just a second and get some damage done, took out 2 of the Marines, and now he's actually going to hang off to the side there, taking some damage, unfortunately, to the hull, and now it looks as if a Viking is going to try and deal with this warp prism, but of course, when the gravitic drive is done, the prism is way faster than those Vikings, and that has done a little bit of harass there for Alej. Forcing the stop on that third base is very nice. Of course, this has given him a lot of time to actually get some of this tech going. Now, as we mentioned before, you can tech up quite fast when you do that fast expansion as a Protoss. You've got, as we can see here, we've actually got Double Forge already completing up on +1 to weapons and armor, and now even a 3 robotics facility. I have never actually seen anyone do this. We'll see how Alej is going to deal with this. I'm not sure if that was a mistake or not, but 2, maybe 3. That's perhaps pushing the relationship with your financial advisor, because if you see that sort of thing, it can be a little bit dangerous to actually get enough, a little bit tricky, sorry, to actually get enough production out of that. But I would believe that the reason for that, of course, is that he's going to need a lot of Immortals out. Dealing with mech can be quite a problem, even if you do get that really nice economic lead on your opponent, because if these tanks are positioned nicely, Terran can still do quite a lot of damage, and of course, you don't want to push into this. If you push into a very turtly Terran like this, you're going to run into a world of pain, because they're going to be able to get these upgrades pretty quickly. In fact, Sterling has not actually started that just yet, but Vikings are going to be able to deal with the Colossus. Of course, the tanks, when they're in siege mode, have 13 range, so they're also going to be able to shoot down the Colossus before they can get in their own range. Now, Alej looks as if he's taking this third base up here, perhaps could even go for the fourth. One of the best ways to respond against a Terran doing mech is to just expand all over the place, a little bit like playing as a Zerg. You sort of just want to get a couple of bases ahead of your Terran counterpart, because if you don't, they're going to march in with a 200 army with +3 to all of the mech weapons and the armor, and you're just going to get from time to time you're just going to get absolutely rolled over, because there is it's very difficult to stop that sort of thing. Now, Sterling is getting those upgrades started, as we can see. +1 to vehicle weapons level 1 is on the way. That's halfway done. Alej is actually now expanding to that fourth. Beautiful. Love to see that. Going to be grabbing that as quickly as possible. A couple of cannons going up to make sure this base is defended. And now the Warp Prism still out on the map. He's trying to get some harassment done. Not sure what damage is going to get done here. There is a turret to help defend, and perhaps he could get onto the high ground here, but the Vikings have now spotted this, and they're going to come around to help and defend against both the Prism and the Colossus, of course. You can see that the Colossus is a big unit. It's got a big fat head, and it is a giant giraffe-looking structure, and it will go down to those Vikings, of course. So there it is. We do have almost the triple robo going here for Alej. We're sort of cutting down on the gateway units. Just looking at this force at the moment, we've only got 6 Stalkers and 8 Zealots out at the moment. So just loving the way that Alej is playing this. You've got to be very, as we said, very careful with mech. You don't want to push into it too hard. You don't want to be sitting around with a lot of gateway forces. And as you can see, this massive army will just do so much damage to pretty much all of the gateway units. It's a little bit like floating around with a few Void Rays and trying to kill some Hydras. Just not going to happen, because they will just absolutely destroy you. And now Sterling is expanding himself. He's going to hit up that, he's going to try and get that 12 o'clock base up and running again, clearing out the rocks so that the ground forces and the SCVs can proceed up there and get their mining started. Warp Prism still active at the moment, floating around, just checking out what's going on at these varied expansions here. He's going to find that there is another base over here, and he's going to be able to put a little bit of damage. Of course, one Colossus is not going to kill that too easily, but perhaps if there's some DT tech somewhere around, which I don't think there is. No, there's not. There are double Stargates, though. Keep that in mind. Yeah, perhaps some DTs or something over here to help with delaying the mining here would be really nice. But it looks as if he's just going to hold position for the moment and just keep an eye on what's going on. But meanwhile, in the middle of the map, we've got some SCVs coming along with these tanks. It looks as if Sterling is going to try and set up the no-fly zone for Alej. He's now pushing through. Immortals off to the side, going to separate some of these units. You don't want that splash damage, dealing everything, doing a heap of damage all at once. Immortals now pushing in through the southern side. They're going to target down some of these tanks. They will be able to clear out some of them quite quickly here. Colossi going down. There are so many Vikings up in the air. I think that is a little bit too many Vikings for Sterling. He's actually perhaps overcompensated for the Colossi damage there. And look at that. All of these Immortals still happily just floating around. They're going to be able to join the next push if Alej decides to push again. I think perhaps the best idea for the moment would be to get some harassment done, and he's actually done that. That Warp Prism did a little bit of damage here, forced the lift off of the command center over here, and also took down some of the mining operations over there as well. So Alej looking very good at the moment. 77 harvesters available for him. He's really kicking that into overdrive, getting that economy going. And now with a lot of Vikings out, we're going to see if Sterling is going to be, if he's going to sacrifice those or if he's going to keep them in operation. That's the big question here, because of course, as we can see with the triple robos there, you can switch around to that Colossi production very quickly here. But the big thing to keep in mind is that these double Stargates are here, and once those Void Rays start to get a little bit bigger in their presence on the map, it'll get a little bit difficult for any sort of mech army to push. And here comes that last little bastion of tech for Alej, getting up the Templar Archives, the Dark Shrine, and around about 700 gates. So we've got all of these gates here. We've got another one here along with a few also in the main. So that's quite a lot of gates available for Alej. He's going to be using that to resupply if needed. You can put that resupply into some Stalkers. You could do some backdoor blink action down here into this base. If you can get some damage done here, that would be really nice. And here's that fun part of dealing with mech. It is such an immobile style to play. You do have these Hellions, which are able to get around the map. They can do a lot of damage to Zealots and that sort of thing on the ground, but they're not going to do anything if they have to jump around from base to base, and that's what we probably want to see here from Alej, is maybe another Warp Prism. If he can get it out, he's got 3 supply left, so unfortunately he can't just at the moment. Oh, yes he can, sorry, I actually miscalculated the Warp Prism there, but now the forces of Alej going to need to be very careful with how they proceed from here. We've got the Observer speed on these observers already. Love to see that every now and then. Of course, it gives him a lot of vision. We can see that he's just camping out in the middle here, just making sure he can see when Sterling is going to try and push through the middle of the map, and I think that is about to start here. SCV is being pulled. It looks as if Sterling may be deciding it's go time, because those is that almost every single SCV he has, I think. It's very close. Yeah, it's pretty much all of the SCVs, so it looks as if Sterling has decided he's going to have a little bit of trouble dealing with this. With a lot of those SCVs out, that's going to really soak up some of the damage. It sort of depends on how Alej engages. Of course, that huge amount of Vikings up in the air is going to be a big amount of trouble for Alej to deal with, given that he only has these few what do we call them? The Void Rays. Sorry, I totally forgot what it was called. But anyway, big battle going on. The SCVs have been sent along with all of this force here. I think perhaps the Gateway resupply could be the big win here for Alej, but it looks as if the Immortals are going to stay alive. Stalker's doing a whole lot of damage. They did take a lot of shield damage from these few ghosts that were in the mix here, but that is going to be it, I would say, because Alej has just cleaned up every single thing here, despite all of those Vikings taking care of the few Void Rays there. The SCVs are now all dead. There are a lot of orbital commands available, but I don't think it's enough, despite how ridiculously powerful those mules are. But the resupply of Alej is now switching into some Void Rays, more Immortals, and of course this is a pretty big thing, because look at what Sterling's got. He's got a lot of factories. That's very cool, but if you don't have some more racks, you're not going to be able to switch techs and resupply, and that is perhaps going to be the downfall here for Sterling. He's just not prepared for how many Immortals were there, and the very low count of Colossi. That's one big thing which I think is decided part of this game, was that the Vikings, once they took care of the few Colossi at the start and then these Void Rays, they were not actually able to do much at all. Once they landed on the ground, the Immortals would just absolutely sweep through them, and now it looks as if Sterling is trying to prepare for another attack, but I don't think it's going to happen. He's quite low on resources just at the moment, and not to mention SCVs. We've currently got 25 SCVs available for him, while mules are quite sexy. When they've got a Colossi beaming them down from afar, they're not going to get too much done. And now we've got some Archons also coming into the mix. These guys will have +3 armor and +3 weapons. They're going to be able to soak up a lot of the damage, allowing the Immortals to get into range. Of course, Immortals don't care about tanks, I suppose. They're like the Honey Badger. They just don't care at all. They're just going to walk into range and start mowing down those tanks straight away once they get into position. And it looks as if the big death ball of Alej is prepared and ready to go. It's not your standard death ball, which has a lot of lasers involved. This one has a lot of psionic power, with those Archons available to put up the Pimp Fist to deal with anything on the ground and the air. And then we've got the Immortals doing that instant shot damage to the tanks once they get in range, and just making sure you're staying ahead, getting another base up. We've got a couple of cannons here to help protect that, but the tank count of Sterling is starting to get a little bit high again, but I think that's not going to be too much to do, because with that many Immortals out for Alej, he's just going to be able to clean all of that up, and we'll see what happens here very shortly. More gates coming along from Alej. He's just making sure, as we said, just when you're ahead, get more ahead. And now he's actually cleaned up some of the bases here. I did miss that drop, my bad. But the base for Sterling is starting to finally get some mining operations going, but I think it's a little bit late for all of that. Few Vikings that are left over from the battle are sticking around, just trying to find out where that Warp Prism is. They're not going to get too much done in the next battle, because all of these units here effectively just destroy the Vikings, especially when they're on the ground. And now with Storm, Blink, +2 to shields on the way, Alej is going to look very, very fine in just a second here once he pushes through. We'll see if he does in fact decide to push through. Just looking at the upgrades of Sterling, he's only just now starting +3 to weapons. He does have the Ghost Mobius Reactor prepared, so there will be a lot of EMPs available. We'll see if that helps out. I'm not actually sure if that's going to win the game, but if you get some really clutch EMPs off, you'll be able to take off the shields of all of these Archons. Then they'll die in half a second. The Immortals, of course, once they lose their shields, have lost a lot of their effectiveness on the battlefield, and we'll see if Sterling is able to come back here. As I said at the start of the game, this guy is no slouch at all. He's a quality Terran player from NA, but it looks as if Alej has actually had the best of him so far, to quote the Foo Fighters. And now it looks as if that Warp Prism, I'm not sure if that's the same one from the start of the game, but it could be. And if it is, that guy has done a great service to Aya. But here we go. We do have a battle in the middle here. The Hellions trying to push through. Not really sure what their plan was, but they get absolutely munched up by the Archons, the Immortals, and a couple of Colossi that are available to Alej. And now lifting in some of these Zealots. They're going to jump inside, going to be able to run down and do some damage to this orbital command here. They should be able to stop all the mining there and in fact force a lift on that orbital command. Mills now dying, SCVs being picked off as well, and that is probably going to be the end of Sterling here. He does still have some mining up at this base here and up the top as well, but he's just starting to look worse and worse by the moment here. 3-1-3 all done for Alej. 3-2-3 is about to be done. Some more Templar being warped in here as well. We've got some pylons being produced here as well. Not really sure what these probes are up to. I'd say that's just a sacrifice for the good of things. Could use them for a bit of tanking, which would be a little bit of fun, but these guys are probably just freeing up some supplies so that Alej can get some more army units in. And here they go, getting burnt alive by the Hellions, and now here comes that push by Sterling. A storm going down, not going to capture too much, but the ghosts are now in position to move across. There is a observer here available to see if those if the ghosts are going to cloak up, but no cloak available, so that means that these guys are going to have to be very careful when they try and push into position. Need some really good splitting here by Alej. He needs to make sure that the Archons are not together, try and limit the amount of Immortals that are together. Of course, there's so many of them that could be very hard to do, but it looks as if he is going to have to deal with this attack. Finally pushing through from Sterling in just a second here. I think he's perhaps trying to get some, trying to gain some position, but as we can see here, there is so much harassment being done by Alej. He's now just taking out this 12 o'clock base again, so he's going to be very nice there. And now, as we can see, building a command center. Not really sure what's up to here. Perhaps a planetary fortress attempt by Sterling. Can Alej see this? Yes, he can. There is, of course, that pylon that's there. He's able to spot the command center, but here they come. Units moving in from all sides. The ghosts are up the top, so they were actually a little bit hidden there, putting down some EMPs. A lot of the shields on these Immortals going down, but the ghosts have not done enough. Now there are tanks up the back still, so there's still a long way to go for Alej, but he is slowly pushing through. Some nice storms on top of the tanks there as well. They're going to do a lot of damage. Some of the Immortals still have shields available, and that is going to be it for Sterling, going down to a very heavy Immortal mix here from Alej. Some of the Vikings now landing, trying to get some damage done. Hellions late to the party. They got the address wrong and went to the wrong place, and a GG well played from Sterling. Great job there by Alej, showing the power of that very quick, the very fast Nexus there. As a Protoss, we didn't actually get to see too much harassment from Sterling at the start of the game, just deciding to switch into a mech style. But unfortunately, not able to get too much done, and Alej was prepared with a host of Immortals ready to serve there, and cleaned up all of the tanks along with some Archons and some Templar as well. So good stuff there by Alej. Make sure you jump onto Twitter and say hello to Alej, and make sure if you have your own replays you want to send them through to duckvillelol@gmail.com, and we will have a look at those and try and get those casted for you. Cheers.